Oh, this is a good one as well. If you limit your choices only to what seems possible or reasonable, you disconnect yourself from what you truly want, and all that is left is a compromise.
The book that Conor McGregor is reading there is Jack Canfield's Key to Living the Law of Attraction, written in 2007. Unsurprisingly, it's about the dubious law, which is essentially willing the life you want into existence through the power of your belief. Whether you buy into the concept or not, Conor McGregor's belief was backed up with an unprecedented UFC run from 2014 to 2017, and during that time there was no bigger name in all of athletics. Conor was adored by many fans and lauded by many critics. Despite all he achieved, though, throughout that time and still today, there has always been a vocal group undermining his accomplishments going back to his 5-fight rise up the featherweight ranks. But now, the belts are gone. Conor hasn't fought since 2018, and there is more doubt and disbelief being attracted to McGregor than ever before. This is very possibly the least popular he's been since his rise to stardom. In a recent interview with MacLife in the lead up to his return to the octagon on January 18th against Donald Cerrone, McGregor had this to say about the MMA community and his legacy.
The forgetful MMA industry, it's such a forgetful game, you know. One guy can have a win or 2 wins and then they're on top of the world, and then a guy can have a loss and he's the bottom.
Conor may have a point about how forgetful we can all be. This is arguably the least hyped fight McGregor has been in since he took on Dennis Siver 4 years ago. Has the MMA world frivolously turned their backs on Conor? He's certainly had his fair share of issues in and out of the cage, but is this just what happens over time to all great champions? Ronda Rousey met a similar fate. Then again, the likes of George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva did not. What is different about Conor's career? Why are we in this place right now? And can Conor find his way out of it? I'm Tommy from MMA On Point, and this is Conor McGregor and the Price of Uncommon Ambition. Conor McGregor has certainly caused more than a bit of controversy in the last few years, and there is no doubt that many fans have been turned off by all of it. But the focus of this piece is on the issues within his actual fight career that have created doubt and apathy in the rest of the MMA fandom, which he has never truly been able to silence and has only been growing. When you look back at what McGregor did in a very short period of time, from 2013 to 2017, it is honestly jaw-dropping. This was not Brock Lesnar coming into the sport already famous. This was not a fighter with years of experience in the UFC who finally got fans to see how incredible his talents were. This was a guy who came into this with nothing. He went from assisted living to headlining a card in Dublin by his 3rd UFC fight. Then he captured the interim title from Chad Mendes. Then he shockingly KO'd Jose Aldo to become the new featherweight king. A duo of fights with Nate Diaz would become some of the biggest box office in MMA history. He followed that up by headlining the first ever MSG show and pulling in an all-time gate while becoming the first ever double champ. A year later, Conor would participate in the 2nd biggest boxing match of all time against this generation's greatest boxer Floyd Mayweather when he was 0-0 as a professional in the sport. When you look back at all that he did, it really is remarkable. It seems like something out of a movie. How could anyone do all of that in such a short amount of time? We've never seen anything like it in mixed martial arts, and we're not likely to see it again for a very long time. Conor had a razor-sharp focus on what he wanted to do. His ambitions higher and beyond the scope of his peers. How many fighters were talking about becoming the double champ before Conor did it? Very few. BJ Penn, years previous. Conor had a completely different mindset about what was achievable in his career, and he went out and he did it. Take out any of your feelings about him as a fighter. What he's done wrong.
Those are the facts. That's what happened.
But he's also been so fast to jump from one milestone to another that plenty of reasonable doubts were left on the table. The question is, has that rapid ambition-fueled rise been his downfall? Did doing it all so fast hurt his career? It seems insane to think that accomplishing great things and doing so quickly would in any way be a detriment to a fighter or anyone else. And truth be told, had Conor gone a more traditional route, there's no way in hell we'd be drinking proper 12 right now. I mean, I'm not, but a lot of other people are.
Jesus.
There would be no $100 million boxing matches, no Gucci mink, none of this. He played the game in a way that captured the world's attention. But in doing so, Conor certainly has left a lot of room for criticism about what it is he actually did. Since he began picking up steam in the UFC, every step of the way, there's been doubt. Little nitpicks about what he's doing in the octagon. There were a lot of fans early on who felt Conor was being protected, that felt like he was having everything handed to him simply because of his popularity and his brash nature. All you have to do is go back and look at social media as well as forums and articles written throughout his career. There have always been these holes that fans and critics have found. Why don't they put him against a wrestler? He clipped Dustin Poirier in the back of the head. How is he going to get a title fight after beating Dennis Seaver? Chad Mendes gassed himself out and took that fight on 2 weeks' notice. Sure, he beat Aldo, but he did it in 13 seconds. How about he gives him a rematch and we see if he can win a real fight? Why is he holding up the division to fight Nate Diaz twice at welterweight? He's going up to lightweight to fight for a title before even defending his featherweight championship? Eddie Alvarez was off his game that night and circling towards Conor's left hand. The Floyd Mayweather fight was just a cash grab. Conor never even defended either of his titles, and so on and so forth. The loss to Nurmagomedov has only compounded these criticisms, as has his lengthy absence from the cage. We can't miss you if you don't go away, but when you're gone, it's out of sight and out of mind. But that has not been the case for fighters like GSP and Anderson Silva, as we mentioned before. Why? Is it because their legacies have been built on a stronger foundation than McGregor? Well, certainly in the eyes of many MMA fans. The type of thing that Conor was doing, it had never been attempted before. Nobody was jumping around divisions and trying to snatch up belts. Nobody was legitimately going to get a $100 million boxing match in the prime of their MMA career. Silva famously wanted to fight Roy Jones Jr., but was never able to achieve that dream. Now, part of this is the product of the time period he was dominant in, but there's no denying that Conor was on a completely uncharted path, moving so rapidly that there was never even time to address any of the big criticisms about his career. And so those issues continued to grow, and as such, his accomplishments are looked at in a different light than that of legacy champions like Silva and GSP, who built their careers on an MMA lifetime of dominance. What they did was a slower path. They didn't perhaps burn as bright as the height of Conor Mania, but the slow build and legacy is, as a result, much harder to poke holes in, and will certainly continue to stay lit longer. They fought multiple generations of contenders in their divisions, and they showed that they were the very best for as long as they could possibly hold on. And as the standard bearers for the sport, that type of legacy has long been the benchmark for what makes someone an all-time great in the eyes of the fans. You win a belt, and you defend that belt long enough for people to see that you're as dominant in a division as it gets. You leave no doubt. Which brings us back to Conor. There are many fans who have trouble accepting his accomplishments as those issues have continued to linger. Now, fans and critics are fans and critics. The credit belongs to the man who was actually in the arena and such, Teddy Roosevelt and all that. But the thing is, Conor does consider what these people are saying, as was evident by his quote in the Mac Life interview. He's addressing it publicly and wants to show his critics that he is as great as he believes his accomplishments would suggest. He wants to remind the fans that he's the top guy this sport has ever had. Conor is proclaiming he's more focused and more determined than ever, at least in interviews, to get his career back on track and accomplish great things, to seal his legacy. But can he do that on his current path? Can Conor, with his ambitions as they are, really silence the critics who have had issues with core elements of his legacy from the very beginning? Only time will tell, but as of now, he's talking about the 170-pound title and the 155-pound title. A champ in 3 different divisions. It's never been done before, which is no doubt a continuation of the same type of path he's been on in the past. Not fending off the top fighters in a division and building that type of legacy, but seeking a new and, in the eyes of some, hollow and opportunistic milestone. He is not looking to be the next GSP or the next Anderson Silva. The record for 11 title defenses is not something he seems interested in. I've never even heard him talk about it. Can you imagine Conor in 11 straight fights in a single division for a single title, just lining up contenders as they come and defeating them? I'm not saying that that is something he couldn't do. I'm saying that it doesn't even feel like that's within his nature. Since we have known Conor McGregor, everything he has attempted to do has been bigger and faster and unlike any other legacy that the sport has had to offer. So to think he would suddenly settle into a more traditional legacy champion at this point in his career almost seems absurd. And so it goes. The lack of title defenses, the jumping around divisions, the, in the eyes of some, unwarranted title fights, all these holes remain. And as much as Conor wants to silence the critics with his return to the octagon against Donald Cerrone, no victory there could possibly help change their minds because these questions have lingered for much longer than McGregor's current layoff. And if he truly does intend to fight for the lightweight title, as well as the welterweight title in his 2020 season, this fight does him no favors with the critics to justify those expedited opportunities and is already being seen as a gift from the UFC brass in exchange for his popularity. But that's the price you pay for having uncommon goals. There is no universally praised path for Conor to take, not unless he wants to become a traditional fighter with a traditional goal set, which he doesn't. So he'll have to take the bad with the good as he sets off to do more things that have never been done. And whether you agree with the criticisms or not, it's an ongoing battle that he has the power to address. He could potentially burn as bright again as he ever has, with some reciprocally outstanding numbers and figures to go along with it. New fans will always crop up, but as long as he plays this game, the problem is that the naysayers, the doubters, and the critics will only grow louder. And none of today's discussion has even factored in the enormous potential ramifications of the current allegations under investigation outside the cage. But as that is an ongoing matter and unyet decided, that will have to be another story for another day. Thanks for watching. Please give us a like and subscribe. We've got 3 new videos or more for you every single week. Let us know what you thought of the video in the comments below. Huge shout out to Max Randall for editing this video together. Follow him on Twitter @Max_Randall. Follow On Point MMA on Twitter, and have yourself a wonderful day.